Vikings fans, come on in here. Give me a hug. Let's feel good about today. We are looking back at young JJ McCarthy and his first ever NFL start, which most people don't know what to make of it because the first three quarters were not great. And then the fourth quarter happened. And then the winner did what winners do, and he got the job done. But I will say this, it's one game. It's one game, and like with every team, including the Chicago Bears, the season isn't made or isn't broken by one game in week one of the NFL season. So we got to let it play out. But I've been saying this, and I have been on the JJ McCarthy bandwagon since he was on Michigan. I wanted the Vikings to pick him. They ended up selecting him. He has the meniscus tear. And at that point, I even said, you know what? Ultimately, the best case scenario was that he wouldn't play his rookie year because when you brought in Darnold, ideally you wanted Darnold to play well, right? You never wanted your team to lose. So the Vikings, assuming they wanted Darnold to play well so they would be winning games, the plan would have been to never switch in McCarthy and let Darnold play the whole season. And so the fact that he sat obviously sucks that he missed reps and practice reps, but ultimately the best case scenario was that he set that whole first rookie year. Now this year he comes in, and I've said this, what I look for personally with quarterbacks, and I'm no expertise here, but I want to make sure that the intangibles are there. I think the quarterback needs to be a leader, needs to be able to execute everything from pre-snap to during the snap to even during adversity. And I've always seen that with McCarthy, and you continue to see it here. And I get it. The splash plays are what's going to get the headlines. But ultimately for me, what matters is, can you run the offense that your head coach wants you to run? Are you equipped to do that and be a leader? And of course, at times you're going to have to make plays. But if you can handle the layups and if you can do what should be quote unquote easy, then those plays, even if they hit at a 50% clip, those magical plays, as long as you got the baseline down, and especially when you're on the rookie deal and your team can sign free agents around that to help you and be there to maybe if the receivers are getting actually paid wide receiver money, like if your throw is a little off target, they might be able to pull in a one-handed snag. And that makes you look good as a quarterback, even though maybe the pass might have not been on target. So all those things matter. The Vikings with McCarthy, I said this, he is the single player that could change the trajectory of the season and of this team, because if he is above average, he doesn't have to be elite this season. If he's just above average with the roster that this Vikings team has, they could be contenders. And if he's below average and if he's not good, then they're not even sniffing the playoffs. And so last night, people will say you saw a little bit of both. You saw bad McCarthy and you saw great McCarthy. But honestly, it's just how I evaluate QBs as a whole in a big picture scheme. I evaluated JJ McCarthy's yesterday in what it was. I think that first half struggle was mostly because Kevin O'Connell, I think, was babying him. If you look at all his completions during that first half, I mean, they're all short completions. They weren't really letting him get it, run the offense. He went 5 for 8 in the first half. He had 53 yards and he took 2 sacks. And honestly, I mean, yeah, that's not impressive. No one's going to look at that and be like, oh, that's great. 53 yards. Woohoo. What a great first half. But I just didn't think he was making mistakes. And I think the plays that were there to be made, he made. And so I'm going to, look up this video of, the completions that he had in the first half. And again, the numbers I don't think were bad. I mean, you just got to watch it. And people, I think, fall in love with looking for the highlights. But so here we go. This was the first simple throw to Josh Oliver, 4 or 5 yard gain. Again, that's a layup. That is about as easy as it can get. You better make that pass. You did. Here we go. Second quarter. He also didn't have long possessions at all. Here, nothing was there, so he ran. First down. Okay, we'll take that for sure. Here we go. 2nd and 8. Quick throw. Hawkinson. It's there. It's catchable. It's accurate. Those are layups. And I think O'Connell was just trying to give him layups, which was great. But ultimately, it just didn't lead to them. Look, 3rd and 4. Layup. and it was short. So now they have to punt. If that's a first down, if Jefferson's 1 yard deeper, it changed, new possession. He only had 8 passes in the first half. 3rd and 25, obviously here you're just going to do something super simple. Again, layup, make the pass. But all of these things were not because McCarthy was failing passes or missing guys. So this narrative that he struggled, I mean, this was a huge throw. And I actually thought this was a mistake. So I'm going to pause this video real quick. Prior to this, the Vikings weren't calling timeouts to stop the Bears on offense. They were kind of fine with giving the Bears a field goal, and it seemed like letting the Bears take the clock down. Then suddenly they did call a timeout. And now, in my opinion, it was a mistake because now you're putting a rookie, essentially a rookie quarterback, in a must-pass situation with, look, there's 20 seconds left. And you're asking him now, go make some plays with your arm when the defense knows you have to make plays with your arm and get us in field goal range. And I thought, I mean, he said it in his, post-game interview. But this throw, I don't think it was big because, as McCarthy said, it kind of let him know that he's good now. I think it was good in giving Kevin O'Connell the confidence to say, like, yo, man, trust this kid. This is a situation that you didn't want to put him. That's why they were babying him in the first half. Now you're forced to put him into this situation, which, again, I didn't agree with it. Like, I was like, if you're going to babying him, the worst thing to do is now put him in the situation where he has to actually suddenly do a 180 and do the opposite of babying him, and you're asking him to be a hero. And, I mean, he proved himself, I think, with this throw where it was like on the money, nailer, gets them basically in field goal range. And I mean, that was a huge play in the game. And now we're going to the third quarter, which again, I mean, that one's inaccurate, but it's still a catch. And which I actually thought it was a fumble. I don't know how other refs call that, but I mean, I thought if you punch the ball out and you don't touch him, it's a fumble. He's not down by contact yet, so it's a live ball. He can get up and keep running. So if you punch the ball out, but maybe, and they didn't do a good job explaining this on the Monday Night Football broadcast, but maybe if you touch the ball, it counts as the runner, and that's down by contact, which wouldn't make sense to me. But if that's not the case, I don't know how that play wasn't a fumble. I don't know if there's a replay here that they'll slow it down so people can see if you missed it. But I mean, I thought that was a fumble, and they didn't show a replay. But anyway, my problem in that first half was that they were babying McCarthy, and they were pretty much telling him, like, short passes, quick completions. The offensive line was kind of struggling. They had no run game. The Bears were coming after him. But I thought he hung in there. I thought he was getting the play call in. I don't know the ins and outs of when he was canning plays and he was like, can, changing the play, and the play clock was going down. I don't know if that was maybe him trying to take too much control of the offense or what was going on. But, if you look at Caleb Williams, the stats were there and people were like, oh, man, he got a touchdown and he did great things. But they had like 3 false start penalties. And those kinds of things are things that matter. Every yard matters. And so, again, say what you will about McCarthy struggling in the first half. I saw it more as Kevin O'Connell struggled, having the confidence to just let the offense roll with McCarthy. I think he was so careful for McCarthy not to make the mistake. And he ended up making the mistake. But guess what? After that, you were forced to, you were essentially saying, like, all right, well, we got to let him rip because we're losing this game. At one point, I really was convinced that they were almost, okay with kind of taking this as a loss just to get McCarthy's feet wet. And I wasn't with that. If he's your starting quarterback, you got to trust him as your starter. Like, that's it. Like, the season has started. We'll keep taking a look at these highlights. But I just thought at this point, like, you got to let him go. Like, let him go to work. Again, 2nd and 8, easy throw. Like, everything was easy that they were giving him. And again, I get it. You want to ease him into the offense, but that's not sustainable. This is after the pick 6. And now, the fourth quarter, you're like, all right, well, we want to give ourselves a chance. We got to let them air it out. And there you go. This is what happens. Like, the routes were further down the field. It was, it was almost like the Vikings from last year on offense. That's a hell of a throw. And I think O'Connell, like I said, I think he was babying him in the first half. And then when he was put in situations to force him to kind of have to put the ball in his arm, the kid proved that he can do it. So hopefully going into next week, the Vikings just trust him from the get-go. Like, sure, there are things you can do here and there to ease him in, but ultimately it's week 1. You got a ball and you got to go. Again, look at the time now and the routes, the further. This is a 30-yard, 27-yard touchdown to Aaron Jones to a running back. Like, that's trusting the quarterback. So I don't know if what exactly changed, but I don't think it was McCarthy that necessarily struggled in the first half. Yes, he struggled. The whole offense struggled, but I think that's just because they were giving him almost sort of a limited playbook of we're just gonna, have you ride your bike with the training wheels on, and then ultimately when it was like, all right, dang, we gotta speed this up, we gotta get going, take the training wheels off, let's go, and then the kid showed that he could do it. I mean, and this was the big. I mean, this guy was look on the money. He's not missing the layups, and that's what I look for, and that's why as a Viking fan, I do feel fully confident that they have a guy. I'm not saying he's a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen just yet. No way. But you see it. You see the potential. This was a mistake too, in my point. On this was one of the mistakes that McCarthy made. Here, you got to get the ball out earlier, and I'll show you why. And I said this yesterday on while I was watching it live. If you get the ball to Aaron Jones right here, give him the ball there so he can turn, and now he's got plenty of space and he can stay in bounds. But McCarthy waited, and these are the learning curves. I mean, I don't know what 26 is doing over here, who he's waiting on. But ultimately, again, McCarthy waits a beat here, and by the time he throws it, when Jones gets it, he's close to the sideline. He had to get the first down, but it forced him out of bounds and stop the clock. So again, little things like that are where he has to improve and kind of learn to be more on time. But I mean, the throws he was making, again, on target, right to your guy, keep it moving. And this was obviously, I think, the biggest play of the game coming up right here. They gave him the read option. Again, you trusted him. You said, all right, ball's in your hands. We're up by a field goal. Easy to just let him settle and take a field goal. But they started trusting him, and he took it in, and he won the game for the Vikings. And I mean, that's what you have to do. Again, if he's your starting quarterback, treat him as your starting quarterback. And they finally did that. It took a while, but I am, very excited about what I saw from JJ McCarthy. Again, it's not even about the highlight plays. It's because the layups are made. And when the layups are made, that's what moves the sticks. That's what gets you in good position. But also from time to time, you got to hit the home run balls, and he did that. And that's not going to be perfect every time. There's going to be some, throws over 20 yards that he's going to overthrow or have a miss on. And again, it didn't help that of those 3 first half completions, I mean, I'm pretty sure the Thielen one was in the first half, but that one might have been in the second half. But in the first half, for sure, Justin Jefferson had a comeback route, and the ball was there, and it was just a drop. And that if that gets completed, that's third down. Now you're in the red zone, possibly scoring a touchdown instead of settling for a field goal. And the ball was on time. It was where it should have been put. So, again, if you actually watch the game, I didn't really think it was McCarthy struggling. I still thought it was fine. I just thought that they really had the training wheels on him. And it didn't help, obviously, Jefferson having that drop. There was a third down later in the game. He makes a good throw to Thielen, who it gets knocked out of his hands. He kind of it's a drop by a wide receiver. You expect to make the catch. That would have moved the chains. There was another one to Jefferson. It was a higher throw, but it went through Jefferson's hand. That's a catch that I would expect any NFL wide receiver to make, but especially a top receiver like Jefferson, and it went through his hands. He dropped it. So I love what I saw from McCarthy. And again, he's a winner. I think in that final play, you can see it too. I mean, we'll watch it back one more time. You can see it in this final play, the read option. He's thinking about, should I stay in bounds and just take it here and stop, waste some more clock right here. He slows down right there. And then he's like, nah, do it. We're getting 6. And that was the right play. That was the right thing to do. You go up 2 scores at that point, because if you settle and you don't get the touchdown, sure, you maybe waste more clock. But ultimately, at that point, you're still making it a point where a touchdown, essentially by the Bears, would give them the win with the extra point. So, yeah, you take it in. And he did that, and he's a dog, and the team loves him. And you see every single attribute that the Vikings love in him, and that people like me who care about the non-flashy things, we just want to win. He proved that he's a winner, and that is the most important thing. Again, it's one game, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself. He could come out next week and throw 3 interceptions, and hopefully not, because I'll be at that game. But, if he has a horrible game next week, it's back to questioning everything. Like, man, is the real JJ McCarthy not great? But I don't even think people are going to think that only the fourth quarter was good today. And yes, the pick 6 was a horrible mistake, and you got to expect that from a rookie quarterback. There's going to be mistakes. But aside from that throw, I saw nothing, no other red flags aside from that throw. And that throw is not a red flag to me, because that's part of the learning curve. That's going to happen. He's got to learn, like, you know what, on those out routes, it's a different speed in the NFL. That's going to get picked off. and I got to either get that out of my hands quicker or it's got to be more to the outside. Those are things that you learn as a rookie. But as far as getting people lined up, getting, changing plays, which again, I thought he was doing more than the average second year guy. Like usually it's the coach gives you the play, you can it. That's about it. But he's over there reading formations, doing things. And again, it's the first game, so you don't really know what to expect from the Bears. And I thought he handled that great. Again, obviously the adversity he handled great. But those are the important things to me. The passes, the layups that he had, he missed none of the layups that he had. They were all right. The passes were on the money, right? And again, Caleb Williams can't say the same thing. He had several layups that he missed, just like Justin Fields used to do. And those are the attributes that, to me, make the difference between what will be an elite quarterback and what's just an average quarterback. And the Vikings don't even need McCarthy to be elite. Again, I said this before. That roster is stacked because he's on the rookie deal. They need him to just hit the layups. And obviously, hopefully now, as the playbook opens up and hopefully Kevin O'Connell starts to trust him, once those other plays happen and you get the longer developing plays, hit the home run balls from a once in a while. And, that defense obviously showed that they're pretty legit too. And we'll see how the season rolls around. It's one game. I'm not trying to overreact. I'm not saying he's Josh Allen. I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes. But I am saying that they do have a competent quarterback who can run the offense and get the layups when they're there. And that's the baseline. Because if you have that, then you can hold steady and you can be in most and every single game. Don't be a hero. Do what's in front of you. And obviously, yesterday he had to kind of become the hero, which I'm not going to bank on this being his whole career, but he kind of had to become the hero because I think they were putting the blinders on him and not ever letting him do any slow developing plays or, take a shot. And the one shot he took in the first half, it was a pass interference call. He had the right read. It was one-on-one, threw it to Aaron Jones, pass interference, and they got like 40 yards on that penalty. Like, trust the kid. You just have to. And he's going to make mistakes, and you got to keep trusting him. So, again, I hope that this means that the Vikings will start trusting him moving forward. But what a start. I mean, I was ready in the third quarter. I thought it was a loss. And I honestly thought the Vikings were just kind of content with a loss to let McCarthy ease into it, which was going to be very disappointing for me because I'm like, no, you should have had him do that in the preseason. Like, it's the real thing now. You better try to win every game. But I do feel like they were very conservative. And ultimately, once they opened it up, good things happen. We'll see how it goes next week against Atlanta. For the Bears, we'll talk about them some more when we look back at some of the week 1 games and kind of look ahead to week 2. So, but Viking fans, be excited. I mean, be excited. He's healthy and he looked the part. So we'll see how this continues. But what an exciting win for Vikings fans. You got to feel good about that. JJ McCarthy might be your savior.